Hey Freedom Fighters, Rob Berger here, author of Retire Before Mom and Dad. In today's video, we're going to talk about the second stimulus check and the extension of unemployment benefits. As you probably no doubt know, the Senate Republicans are in the process of, negotiating amongst themselves and the president to put out a proposal. It's expected early next week. In this video, I want to give you all the up-to-date information that we have on what to expect. This is some research I've done in part for an article I published today on Forbes, and I will leave a link to that article, which in turn has a lot of great links to resources in the comments below. So just some quick perspective. As you know, a couple of months ago, the CARES Act was passed into law, and it did a couple of things. One is it sent out, of course, the $1,200 stimulus checks, $1,200 per person. There were income limitations that kicked in beginning at $75,000, and there was a provision for additional money for dependents. That was one of the big things. And the second one, I think that had the most direct impact on individuals was the enhanced unemployment benefits. The federal government added $600 a week over and above any unemployment benefits folks would receive at the state level. Now that is expiring. It technically expires at the end of the month, although for I think a lot of states, it effectively ends actually today. And so that has a lot of folks questioning, one, are we going to get a second stimulus check? And number two, what's the deal with these enhanced unemployment benefits? Will they continue? Will they be changed? So here's what we know. First of all, they're calling it, or Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is calling this CARES 2. That's the name he's giving to the proposal. You can see on the screen, this is actually a high-level summary of where things stand. It was put out just a couple of days ago. And let's start with the stimulus check. And if we scroll down in this summary, we'll see that it's not particularly helpful. You can see it here. It says these will be included, so that's good news. There will absolutely be some sort of direct payment, what we call stimulus check, that will go out. But according to this, it's an amount and its eligibility criteria are to be announced. So here's the deal. There was some speculation that it might be limited to folks making $40,000 or less. That was because of comments by Mitch McConnell, in which he said that the hardest hit folks are those that make less than $40,000. He never actually said he wanted to limit the stimulus payments to those individuals, but nevertheless, that generated some speculation that maybe it was going to be limited to those folks. This past week, Steven Mnuchin, this Treasury Secretary, came out and said, look, the stimulus payments are going to be identical, the exact same as they were in the first round under the CARES Act. Now, of course, that's not law, but certainly that suggests that the payments are going to be the same. I think there's also a practical side to this. I think the last thing that Republicans or any politician wants to do in an election year is alienate those Americans that make between $40,000 and $75,000. So I think it's very unlikely that the eligibility requirements will be changed. In my opinion, and this is consistent with what Secretary Mnuchin has said, that there will be a second stimulus check. It will be identical to the terms in the first round, which means $1,200 per individual, $500 for qualifying dependents. There are caps, and of course, income eligibility requirements, as you know. Now, in the article I linked to below, published on Forbes, that in turn includes links that can take you to a stimulus check calculator if you'd like to see, assuming again that the second stimulus check is identical to the first, you can see exactly what you would qualify for. So that is our best understanding now. There will be a second stimulus check, and it'll be on I believe, on terms similar, if not identical, to the first round. Now, unemployment benefits get much more interesting, and in fact, you can see it on the screen. It seems clear that they are going to extend unemployment benefits, but it also seems clear that at least Senate Republicans, and I think the president as well, doesn't want to keep paying $600 a week. The reasoning is this: at $600 a week, about 2/3 of the recipients actually make more money not working than they did working. In fact, a Brookings Institute study found that the unemployment benefits, including the $600 federal bump up, amounts to, on average, around $24 an hour in the equivalent earnings. It varies from state to state, so it's higher in some states, lower in others, but it averaged out to around $24 an hour. And the concern is that's going to create a disincentive for folks to return to work. Now, some take issue with that and say, no, it really doesn't create a disincentive. What's creating a disincentive is the COVID-19 and lack of jobs. We could debate that. I don't know what the ultimate right answer to that is, but it seems clear to me that the Senate Republicans are going to propose an extension of unemployment benefits, but at a lower rate. And here's what we think is likely to be their proposal. And it's really a two-phase proposal. The first would be, as a transition period, an extension of a flat amount, but less than $600. And then that would eventually transition into a program where the federal government would effectively step in and assist the states with resources so that they can increase unemployment benefits to around 70% of the worker's previous income. Now, this is all going to get negotiated. You may recall that the House Democrats proposed and passed at the House what's been called the HEROES Act. Now, that's not going to see the light of day, primarily because it costs $3 trillion. And it's just, so it's kind of was a non-starter, but it's quite clear that they want much richer benefits. And in fact, I think would readily sign off on a proposal that kept the $600 a week payment. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think there will be some negotiations. If I had to guess, I think there would be a unemployment benefit that would take it probably closer to 100% of a worker's previous income, rather than what I think will be the Senate Republicans' proposal of 70%. Again, all of this is subject to negotiations and, of course, approval by the president. It is clear there will be some additional unemployment benefits. I think it's also clear, though, that it will be something less than the current $600. We should know, by the way, the Senate Republicans' proposal early next week. At one point, they said Monday. Now it's early next week. So I think whatever the specific day is, we'll know their proposal sometime next week. Now, those are the headline items that I think most folks are concerned about: the stimulus check and unemployment benefits. But there are some really important additional provisions in the proposal, or the summary of the proposal, and I want to highlight a couple of them. The first is, you see here, the $25 billion for COVID-19 testing and $26 billion for vaccine research, distribution, and use. Obviously, two extremely important issues. And it's good to see, again, I put in aside the amount, but that obviously a lot of resources are going to be put to both of those things. The other sort of big item is education. You can see down here $105 billion for education. Now that's going to be divided up in a couple of different ways. $70 billion would go to K through 12. What's interesting about that is that $30 billion of that amount would go only to those schools that physically reopen. Now, as you probably know, there's been some debate. Some have been pushing for schools to reopen. Some have been saying, hey, no, let's slow down. We're not ready. Obviously, we want our children to be safe. We want the teachers to be safe, the administration. It seems to me that this kind of decision has to be made at the local level. I don't see any other way to do it. I think we all want schools to open as quickly as they safely can. At the same time, there will be additional expenses just to sanitize the schools and to keep them clean. And I suppose if schools don't reopen, at least in the near term, then presumably they won't need those funds, at least now, to sanitize the schools. But in any event, I think the proposal from Senate Republicans will carve out a portion of the amount allocated to education to go to just those schools that reopen. Now, a couple of other things quickly. You may recall the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, and it provided some loans and forgivable loans to small businesses so that they could keep folks employed. It turned out to be a pretty popular and important part of the CARES Act. It will certainly be part of CARES 2. Obviously, the specific terms are still to be determined. You can see here, though, that they want to streamline the loan forgiveness process for small loans, that is under $150,000, and then have what they call an intermediate forgiveness program or process for loans that are under $1 million. So those are the key, I think, provisions being negotiated. There is some liability reform, as you can see here. I think there's some concern that healthcare workers, for example, could be subject to lawsuits. And I think there could be a provision that says, yeah, maybe, but only in really extreme cases where there's really gross negligence. So that is the update. Stimulus checks, I think, no doubt are coming. I think they're going to be the same as the last round. But again, all of this is subject to negotiation and final approval. I think there's no doubt there will be some continued enhanced unemployment benefits, but I think it's likely going to be less than the current $600 payment, weekly payment. Obviously, as we learn more, I will come back with additional information for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.